Welcome back to the Faith and Culture Show. I'm Catherine Camp, and this is the show where we learn, we get educated in order to have those difficult conversations in our culture, conversations that count, conversations with an eternal perspective. Today I have a returning guest, Dr. Timothy Jennings, and we're going to talk about Alzheimer's, the causes of Alzheimer's, and what goes on in our brain when we start to have cognitive decline. I think this touches all of us at some point, whether it's a relative or even something starts to happen to us personally. So I hope you stick around. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. Dr. Jennings is the author of several books, and I would encourage you to look him up and maybe even check out a few. I was interested in his work when I was doing deep dive research about 15 years ago, but it was called The God-Shaped Brain. Anyhow, Dr. Jennings, like I said, is a returning guest. I hope you go back and look at that episode. It was done about a year and a half ago or a year ago, and he's back with us now. So welcome to Dr. Jennings to the Faith and Culture Show. Great big welcome to Dr. Timothy Jennings. He is the author of several books, and we'll get into that during the show, but I'd like to showcase his one of his latest works on Alzheimer's and the aging brain. So welcome to the show, Dr. Jennings. Thank you so much for coming back to the show so that we can discuss this important topic.
Thanks for having me, Catherine. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Well, so I know we've done a show before, so any of you who are not familiar with Dr. Jennings' work, I would highly suggest you go visit his website and take a look at some shows that we did last year. We did a show, and we're just talking about the situation going on in the culture at that time. It may have been about a year and a half ago. But what led you, as a psychiatrist, I know you see a lot of I guess, sad things and probably some good things that come out of your sessions. But where did you think about, how did you begin to, I guess, work on Alzheimer's of all things? It seems like you're so busy. I kind of wonder, how people begin focusing on one aspect.
So as a psychiatrist, or through my career, I've had patients. I used to consult at 2 nursing homes in early part of my career, and I've treated patients that have struggled with dementia throughout my career. So I was always tried to keep up with the latest happenings in the treatment field. But what got me really interested in doing the deep dive and writing a book about it is when my wife's mother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. I immediately recognized it put my wife at risk, and because of the genetic relationship. And so I started doing a deep dive to see if there was a really understanding in the contributing factors for Alzheimer's type dementia. That's the type we're talking about. And I discovered that, in fact, it is. Alzheimer's type, the late onset, is all lifestyle related. The genetics are not directly causal. The genetics, if you have the genes, can put you at risk so that the environmental factors you're more sensitive to, so you take less of a dose of the environmental factors to develop the dementia process. But if you have the at-risk genes and live the healthy lifestyle, do the lifestyle factors that avoid those risks, you actually will not develop Alzheimer's dementia. And that was really exciting news for me. And I shared, of course, that with my wife, and I wrote the book to help let other people know that they can avoid the late onset form of Alzheimer's dementia as well if they engage in these healthy lifestyle practices.
Okay, so your book, The Aging Brain, does tell us about these different lifestyles and how people can start living in certain ways. Can you give us a few, I guess, topics from your book?
So I think, yes, I can and I will, but I wanted to have the landscape of why this is important.
Yes.
Alzheimer's dementia, for those who don't know, dementia is a functional impairment of one's cognitive abilities. To have a diagnosis of dementia, it is a memory impairment plus the loss of one of 4 domains. normal language ability, normal ability to identify objects, normal ability to do motor tasks like tie your shoe, button your shirt, and or a normal executive function, plan, organize, balance your checkbook, strategize, follow a recipe, those types of things. If you have a memory impairment plus one or more of those domain losses, that is the functional diagnosis of dementia. Your function is impaired. That's called dementia. Whatever damages the brain is a disease that, if enough brain tissue is damaged, can cause the functional impairment of dementia. So Alzheimer's disease, and it has a specific pathology that damages the brain in a specific way. When it progresses far enough and you've lost enough brain tissue, then you lose function, and that is when you get the diagnosis of Alzheimer's dementia from Alzheimer's disease. Parkinson's disease can lead to a different type of dementia called Parkinson's dementia. Vascular disease, which damages the brain from microvascular insults, little tiny strokes, leads to vascular dementia and so forth. And so understanding that we're talking about Alzheimer's dementia, we're talking about functional loss. And that only happens when the brain has already lost hundreds of millions, if not billions, of neurons from the disease process that has been going on for a decade or more before the functional loss. It's important people know this because a lot of stuff coming out in the news and the research about this treatment for Alzheimer's dementia and this treatment for Alzheimer's dementia and so forth. If somebody already has dementia, the brain has already lost billions of neurons, and there isn't any treatment that I know of that causes the brain to rebuild all those neurons and all those networks that have been lost. And so they're actually talking about slowing the loss of neurons or slowing the decline rather than actually curing the condition. And I haven't seen anything that actually prevents, that actually cures it once somebody has dementia. The lifestyle factors that I've researched and we talk about in the book actually intervene with the processes of the destructive cascade that is causing the neuronal loss in the first place. And if you do those before you actually get dementia, then you don't progress to dementia because you stop the cascade of destruction.
Okay, I'm sitting here thinking, by the time we notice someone is not thinking right, is a little bit slow, has short-term memory loss, because I'm thinking of my own mother, who she's very sharp on long memory, from things from a long time ago, but the short term, she's all of a sudden started asking the same things over and over, and
that's a bad sign. Alzheimer's dementia people typically retain their old memories. It's the new stuff they can't learn anymore. Okay, so that's a bad sign. That's an indicator that something is off. Now, there is normal cognitive function. There's something called mild cognitive impairment. Everybody can tell things are not like they used to be, but you haven't progressed to the point you actually have functional impairment and dementia. You're off a little bit, not as quick, not as sharp, etc. It's off. You're not your normal, and it's measurable. It's called mild cognitive impairment, but you don't meet criteria for dementia yet. The data shows that if you do aggressive lifestyle interventions if the cause is the cause of the late Alzheimer's dementia pathology cause, if you do the aggressive lifestyle interventions, you can stop that decline and not progress on into full dementia, even if you have mild impairment. And so the cascade of pathology happening in the brain, the big landscape, when you get way down into the weeds as you want to get, is final common pathway seems to be insulin resistance in the brain. And that insulin resistance is driven by unhealthy lifestyles that increase body inflammation. Same thing that causes insulin resistance in adult onset diabetes. Same pathology. You get inflammatory factors and inflammation goes up. The insulin receptors become resistant. In the brain, when that happens, a whole bunch of bad stuff happens to the brain tissue because insulin does much more in the brain than simply modulate sugar. And in the brain, insulin has a lot of other roles. And when you get insulin resistance, it results in a cascade of neuronal loss and unhealthy toxic protein buildup that only reinforces in a negative reinforcing loop down more neuronal loss. But the final common pathway is insulin resistance. So all the lifestyle factors that make one insulin sensitive again is protective. And we can go through all the science and give you the data on it. But the big landscape of the interventions are there's basically 6 primary Alzheimer's dementia prevention things: physical conditioning, physical exercise, staying in physical good shape.
Hey, thanks for watching the Faith and Culture Show. If you'd like to continue this particular episode, please go to the Rumble link below, or click on the QR code and join me on the free speech platform over there. Look for the name of the episode and start about the 10-minute mark. I hope to see you there because it's a good